All right, another edition of Riding Home, Dean Legge, and I'm going to bring in Ryan Curley right now. Ryan, live discussion today in Athens. I don't know where you want to start. Talk about Carson Beck, talk about Marius Mims' timeline. Um, there was a lot going on today.
Yeah, Kirby Smart was just drilled with Carson Beck questions today, and co-offensive player of the week in the SEC with Jaden Daniels, right? You put up numbers,
I mean, at least,
you get a co.
At least Jay Daniels is still with us right now. At some point in
Yes,
this season, he's not going to be if he keeps
he
throwing
seems to be
himself.
in danger out there.
I mean, he's
But
Mr. Dangerous, no doubt.
yeah, look, man, Carson, he had a heck of a day on Saturday, and so rightfully so, he's getting asked about. Kirby's not surprised, right? But I don't think a lot, I mean, we're not surprised that Carson can play this well because one, he's been in the program for a while, and that's what Kirby Smart talked about a lot today, and just
Exactly.
how, this is not some second year sophomore starter. This is not a true freshman starter. He's a senior, redshirt junior, senior, whatever you want to call it. This is year 4 for him in college. And he's flirted with the starting job in the past. So
Correct.
now he's got it. He's got it, a grasp on it. I mean, it hasn't been a competition since he was named the starter. He's just been the starter. But they're starting to click a little bit more and a little bit more every week on offense, and you can tell he's improving.
They certainly are clicking more. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, the thing that Kirby was sort of the proudest about, if you want to call it that, after the game was their ability to run. In my looking at Kentucky before this thing, that was the one part where, if Kentucky was going to have success, I thought they would be able to limit Georgia um, running the ball. I didn't think Kentucky would run like they did against the Gators. They hadn't done that the whole year against anybody else. I mean, so all you have to do is watch. Now, as the season goes on, it becomes more complicated, Ryan, because there's more games. But all you have to do is watch Kentucky play, and there wasn't a lot of hey, we're going to run for 300 yards each game. Georgia to some degree has been successful on the ground, although more and more, and this is going to the discussion of Carson today, they have become an explosive off. Well, explosive maybe they were they explosive against Kentucky in your mind?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say more and more over time, but they are turning it over to a pat. I mean, so just as a fact based thing here, Georgia's thrown for 394 yards in half of their games this season. Um, that's a lot. For not quite 400 is a lot of passing yards.
No, I mean it is. And look, if they wanted to, they could have done more, right? I mean, Carson, I don't think he played in the fourth quarter at all.
No.
Um, no, so and that's typical of these games, right? But he could have had more, and he should have had more with the Brock Bowers touchdown. Not to bring that up again, but I mean, it's just one of those things where he should have had a little bit more. But it was the accuracy, the quickness, the timing, and all at the beginning, man. I mean, he was 11 for 11 at one point. He was either 16 or 17 for 18 at one point. The passing offense looked good, and I think that it has potential to be that. It's not going to be that on a weekly basis. It's not going to be that. I'd be surprised if they're that explosive in the passing game every single week, just because I think they approach it differently. But that's what it has potential to be. And like we talked about clicking earlier, Ra Thomas, it seems like, is really starting to find his footing in this offense. You get Lad McConkey back. Kendall Milton looked definitely healthier this time around. They're getting stronger as the season goes on, and that's with injuries it can get worse and worse, but it seems like they're getting stronger chemistry wise and health wise.
And make sure you've got the strongest backyard in the neighborhood, in the mountains, by the beach. Check out our buddies at EcoPoly. They've got the correct furniture for your situation. Our friends at Red Zone have got this. The first thing that you see on weekends is, you know, is Mindy sitting in her EcoPoly chair. 20-year warranty. It's a great piece of long-lasting furniture that you're going to want for a long time. I mean, I've been sitting in it a lot this weekend getting ready for the Vanderbilt game. I wanted to get back to something just 15% off, and make sure you're using our code down below, made in the heart of Georgia. I wanted to get back to something real quick, Ryan, because we are actually at the halfway point this season. And we're going to talk about this later in the week in some riding homes. But Georgia this season, the outlier is the Auburn game, 219 yards. 4 of their 6 performances as a defense have been 86 yards or fewer as against the run. Georgia running it, and I know Kirby's. I don't know if you call it a criticism or his specificity about what is a run and what is not in the passing game, notwithstanding. In handoffs or pitches, Georgia's gone for more than 150 3 times this game. Actually, 4 times of the 6, and they have lately really started getting it going on the ground. Going for South Carolina, going 190, 188 against Auburn against UAB, 107 against Auburn, which was sort of workmanlike, and then 173 on the ground. This team, to me, and the Kentucky game was a exclamation point, Ryan. But to me, this team is looking actually more and more like a national championship team, and the numbers are bearing that out. They're getting better.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, when you kind of look beyond the numbers a little bit, look, Auburn's scheme is to run the football, right? I
Correct.
mean, they're going to get more rushing yards than the other teams. And then, I don't know how much of the game script plays into what UAB got or what Ball State got or what UT Martin got. You know what I mean? I don't know that those are great examples, but look, I think that there were overreactions in the first month, and I don't want to overreact to one game either with Kentucky. You do want to see them be able to do that more,
What would
right?
your
They can't.
overreaction be as it relates to Kentucky? The early scoring.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, or just the whole thing. I mean, top to bottom, that was their best game. I
Yeah.
mean, that was it wasn't flawless, but it was a lot closer to it than the other games.
This
So
right here, this statistic, Ryan. This is the part that's just so dominating, and you see this a little bit in the other games, but not really. 608 yards for the Dogs against Kentucky to Kentucky's 183. They actually really outplayed Auburn the bulk of that game too. It just took a while to catch up. 63 plays for both teams. Georgia with 113 more yards against South Carolina, 150 more yards, almost 20 more plays South Carolina had to endure. I mean, it's really so the South Carolina preview, I mean, the halftime of the South Carolina game, I think was important for us to see that. The third quarter of the Auburn, the third and fourth quarter of the Auburn game was important. But I have been skeptical, but growing less skeptical about Georgia's chances. I'm starting to become a bigger believer than in the past.
past as in,
Well, I think the start of the year was not exactly, ideal on a lot of
yeah.
levels. You did not open the game with you did not excuse me you did not open the season with a big game. It wasn't Clemson, it wasn't Arkansas, it wasn't uh, you know Oregon. So you sort of didn't know totally what Georgia was dealing with right off the bat. I mean, it took a ways to get into this thing. People discounted South Carolina, which I think is typically a mistake with a at least so-called power in the SEC, at least a team that can throw people at you. Um, and I thought that game would be relatively competitive. It was more competitive than I thought. But I guess what I'm trying to articulate, not doing a very good job of it, is this team is just getting better. Now, I think every week you want to see that progress, but um, it's possible they played their toughest game so far it is possible they played their hardest game of the regular season. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case, but it's possible they've been in the worst situation that they're going to be in the rest of the regular season. I don't. We'll see.
Yeah, it does seem like the team's getting better. I think, yeah, I mean, the last 2 years, you get to play a big school like that, a big ranked program. You learn a lot. You learn more about what they're made of in terms of on a national landscape and everything. But what Georgia, it's been like they're cupcakes. They're cupcake games. 3 cupcakes and then 3 SEC games. In the first two, they don't dominate, but they do show signs.
Correct.
Georgia does show signs,
Correct.
right? against South Carolina. I mean, you're down. Like it's what it is. You're down at half. I mean, completely turn around. And now completely turn around is a little bit of stretch because they could have dominated the second half a little bit more, right? And they let South Carolina get another drive
Against
there.
South Carolina, yeah,
So
and they
they messed
missed.
around a little bit with
Correct.
South Carolina in the second half, but they controlled the third quarter. And they showed for a quarter, hey, I mean, it took them a quarter to really beat South Carolina,
A
which was
quarter.
impressive.
A quarter.
Yeah, that's what was impressive about that. That was the takeaway from South Carolina. Is like they really just beat a team in one quarter. Um, no, I'm sure Kirby would say that it wasn't just one quarter, but and then against Auburn, can you come back? Can you come from behind and win in the clutch? Right? Championship teams need to be able to do that. Or if you're not dominating everybody every week, you need to be able to come back and um, show some guts, and they've done that. And then they just straight up dominate a team that might be better than the other two teams.
Uh, they needed this past weekend though, didn't you think? I mean, to sort of
No, they did it, and I needed to be able to see that to feel confident that this
correct,
team can win a championship because I hadn't had that feeling yet.
correct. I
And
think
now,
that's what I'm. I think. Go ahead, Ryan.
is that what you're getting
Well,
at?
I'm
Is that
trying to say that
they
again. I'm
finally
not
looked
saying
like
it
a
very
possible
well,
champ?
but I think there's never been a moment this season where I'm like, oh man, they're in trouble. No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that there's not yet been a moment where you're like, okay, I mean, this is scary all of a sudden. And there have been flashes of that, but the Kentucky game was all aspects. I mean, they dominated that entire game. I think the other thing about, one of us said they needed to show some guts. That was against Auburn. They did. They got plenty of guts. I think what they needed to show was, hey man, we're just gonna come in here and take care of business. But I will say this: since their championship run started, so the 21-2 season. So in 21, they were losing 18-13, with 10 minutes and 14 seconds left in the game. Now I think that was when they scored a touchdown with AD putting them over the top. Against Missouri, they trailed 22-20. I'm sorry. Yeah, 22-12, easy enough for me to say, with 14 minutes and 9 seconds left in the game. Against Ohio State, they were down 38-24, and then they were down 41-13 with 2:43 left to go in that game. Against Auburn, they were tied twice late, and obviously tied pretty late with Auburn, 6 minutes and 21 seconds when they started that drive. They've shown guts for a long time. And in many of those, in 21, Ryan, they were just they dominated everybody, man. I mean, like, I guess Florida was like their least dominant game. Was that one, right?
Missouri was kind of
In 21, yeah, Missouri
yeah.
wasn't great. Charleston Southern actually wasn't great.
Charleston Southern wasn't, and Tech was. Tech
Tech
was.
was.
I was about to flip the
That's
two
why
Tech
there's
games.
dogstruction. See, that's why
Yeah,
we have these
you
books
gotta
so
have
you
a
can
reference
you
point.
can
Yeah.
quickly refer back. I remember 22 a little bit better, but with double dogs. But
I'm trying to think if there were which other games in 21 did they just not. I mean,
Clemson.
Clemson to an extent, defensively, yes.
Oh, they totally dominated them defensively.
Defensively,
We did
yeah.
not know that there was a completely hobbled JT Daniels playing.
Yeah, that just was that was a terrible example. That just wasn't what Georgia was on offense.
No, I mean, first
Just
of all, Stetson Bennett wasn't the starting quarterback.
yeah,
But I think in this case, if Carson continues to play the way when we were riding the game, you and I a lot have NFL quarterback discussions.
yes.
But when we were riding the game, what did we just watched? Jalen Milroe or who? What triggered the conversation about the quarterbacks?
Probably Ewers. Probably Ewers.
Yeah, okay. So we had watched Daniels, Ewers. Obviously, we've seen plenty of Caleb Williams,
Yeah, but
including
we were talking about, where does Beck fall in that
where does
conversation? But that
Beck
was before.
fall? And I was a
Yeah.
little more forceful about that. He fell in the top 10. Matt
Oh,
was
I agreed with that. I
Matt
just didn't know
was
where to put him.
Matt was less forceful. He was more critical, which I don't. We've not talked since then about that particular discussion, but I think it does. I think there's still more rungs of the ladder for Carson to climb. I don't think he's going to catch Caleb Williams. Um,
No,
I yeah,
nobody's catching that
I
dude.
don't think he's going to catch Drake May in terms of NFL stuff. But like we were talking about Shador Sanders. I mean, Shador Sanders makes a lot of plays, man, and now you're seeing Beck is starting to do that sort of stuff, and
Yep.
Sanders has regressed a little, I guess, but he doesn't have Travis Hunter out there, and that hurts. We
No.
were talking
Yeah,
about who
Kirby
else was
Kirby
it?
said today, just a note on Beck there. Kirby said today he only like on average has made, two like mistake type plays where it's just no, don't make that
Two
throw
or
again.
one
Two
this
on
season or
average per
last
game.
game?
The Beck this season.
Well, I know which one of them was, and I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
one
letting
was
that one
just
go.
straight up bad.
I mean,
Yeah, but he said that he's only averaging about two of those throws a game.
oh, okay, to a
Where
game.
where it's
That
just
I
like,
think
no,
that's. I mean, I don't have high football IQ like some people, um, but but
forgot.
I know which one of those was, and that was a rough one. I mean, like I don't know what Carson was thinking. Did he think it was going to make it rain when he threw that ball or something? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, you heard what he said. He just was feeling himself,
I
man.
know, man, but even he was cracking up about that. He was like, I bet if he could,
He
I
was in a
think.
good mood. He was
Well,
in a
he's
good mood.
usually in a good mood.
Yeah,
Actually, it seems
yeah. But
like.
when you throw for 4 touchdowns, almost 400 yards, I mean,
He was
he
okay against South
toasted.
Carolina and Auburn. I can't remember Auburn as well.
He's just chill, man. He's here all the time. He's
Yeah,
here.
he is. He
There's not
is.
this. It's
Well, I'll
this.
tell you this about Carson Beck that so here's an old photographer trick. For those of us who were never super skilled and had to get around things. When guys are throwing touchdowns and you're positioned correctly, it can really be tough sometimes to get throws that are bullets. In fact, you're just not going to get them. Okay, I've shot for 23 years. It's very hard to get. You know who you can shoot? The quarterback celebrating. And so as this season's gone on, his celebrations have been much more muscular and he's more fiery than he was. I'll just tell you that on the field. And
Yeah, but I think that that goes beyond just him. I
okay,
think that that's kind of bled out to the other players, whether it's coming from Carson or just the whole team's kind of starting to do that. But you can notice it with Bowers, man. He's getting into it more.
yeah,
He's
no,
just
you're
he
right
just didn't
about.
used to celebrate that way.
Well, I think the way I would put it specifically with Brock, and if sometimes those guys watch this stuff, they get sucked in. Like I would fast forward through this particular video if I were y'all. But like if I'm Brock Bowers, this is my last season at Georgia. I mean, I would have as much fun after I accomplish something as I possibly can. Carson Beck. This could be Carson Beck's last season at Georgia, and so I would just, those two, particularly Carson, has had to be patient, has put in a lot of work, and you're not guaranteed anything the next day or the next game. So I would have as much fun as possible if I were them. But that you can see that Carson is playing to me with I don't know I don't want to kind of overdo the emotion thing. He is celebrating more after touchdowns. The Auburn throw to Bowers, I was on Bowers the whole time, so I didn't get Carson in that one. But I will say this about the Auburn game: um, when he sees Brock Bowers, Ryan, his eyes they kind of jump a little bit. I'm not making that up. If you had a
Because he knows what happens if he gets him the
and the other thing too is those guys have been my camera just kind of got jumpy on me here.
Yeah, you're frozen for me, but I can hear you just fine.
Well, I don't know if this is recording. We had some camera difficulties for a second there, so I'm going to focus on this camera right here. I was ranting about Carson Beck, and he just seems to be. And you're saying you feel, Ryan, like they are more as a team celebrating more or more passionate. Tell me what you mean.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a little bit more energy, a little bit more I don't know, jubilation after some of these touchdowns. They seem to really be getting into it. Maybe I'm hyper focusing on it a little bit more than I was, but I mean, when have you seen? I mean, and not just to focus on Bowers either, but how often do you see him flex like that after?
No, not a lot.
After, I mean, there's some touchdowns where I've seen him just walk away and hand the ball, like it's nothing. And it feels like more consistently these guys are just really getting after it. Um, Look, they do respond to doubt, and that has been real this time around. And so maybe it has something to do with that.
Maybe I don't know what motivates Georgia's players up besides Kirby Smart telling them stuff. And sometimes it's sometimes it's an exaggeration, but I think you got to do what works. That's basically within reality. But there's just no for me. This team has gotten better as the season's gone longer, and I expect for them to continue to get better. I expect to have a better camera setup. My the one I'm talking to typically goofed up, but we got through it. Hey man, we persevered, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.